Hey, I'd like to welcome our guest today. He's the vocalist of Shadows Fall and Hell Night from St. Louis. This is Brian Fair. How's it going, man?
Going very well, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And you know what? It's an honor to have you on. I discovered you guys a long, long time ago. There was a show up here in Canada, or was it was like a late night TV show, 10 o'clock on a Friday. You know, you're just waiting for like this softcore porn to come on, so you're just kind of just hanging out. You know, your parents are gone or whatever. It was called Much Loud. I discovered you guys. They played music videos. Obviously, at that time, you guys were signed to Century Media. I believe the video was "Thoughts Without Words," and
Yeah, that was our first kind of major video, actually. And it's crazy at the time. We never would have thought a video was part of the plan, really. When especially most of us, even though we were more of a metal band, we came out of the hardcore scene where the idea of a music video is such a foreign concept. So, but that was a cool video shoot too. That we kept it real raw. We wanted it just like, let's capture the energy of like us in a room. And it was the first time we'd ever had to kind of like, lip sync and play through it. And you realize how hard you go when you don't actually have to concentrate on playing. And after like two takes, you're like, it just shot. So
yeah, I I remember seeing the video for Inspiration on Demand. It's like, wow, they really went all out on this. Like he's laying down and he's got. And
uh,
it was like, wow, like that record, by the way, The War Within was actually one of my favorite ones. I chased that record. I live in a really small farm town. They had a record store, and I chased that record. I tried getting them to bring it in. I had no license, so I had no way of getting the record.
that's
Um,
crazy.
and then I finally saw it on the shelf, and I ended up buying it. It was $24. I remember. I
Damn.
remember. Music's a very weird thing because uh, when you hear a band that makes a difference in your life, or or you hear a song or something that makes it touches you like in a weird way, like right in your soul. It pierces your soul, and it just goes with you, like Shadows Fall did for me. You remember the exact time and what happened, how you discovered that band, and that's how it goes with a lot of metal. Um,
Ye-
All That Remains. I discovered All That Remains because of you guys. And Kill Switch Engage, and it's kind of weird to see how everybody's kind of interconnected.
the Massachusetts scene is super like kissing cousins style, like with all the bands that have either shared members or at least came out of the same area or town, sometimes same high school. And it's crazy to think that out of that area spawned so many bands that went on to have kind of the success they did, and or more just the influence they did. But especially from that era, it was such an explosion at the time, and it was going in so many different directions. You had, bands like us and Killswitch and All That Remains mixing, more melodic side of metal with some of the heavier stuff. But then you also had bands like Converge who were taking their style to the extreme, and then Hatebreed in Connecticut. Like all of us had been playing shows since we were like 14 years old in like VFW halls and skate parks and shit. And next thing you know, we're on Ozfest and like meeting up at the Grammys and shit, like just like who let the who let these dudes sneak in the back door. And it's crazy that how many bands came from the same area. Unearth. There's it's just like endless. It's crazy.
And you guys had a tour. Was it a reunion tour and or reunion show back in December?
Yeah. It was our first show in 6 years, and it was crazy. We'd originally planned it pre-COVID. We were going to do it the year before, but right as we were going to announce the world shut down. We're like, all right, there's no way this is happening. So we had to kind of put it on ice for a year, which was scary because that was the first time we've been able to balance everyone's schedules between Anthrax's touring schedule for Jon and Jason's touring schedule for Overkill. We had finally found time that worked, and luckily a year later we were able to kind of keep that same time frame. And the show was amazing. Bill wise, we wanted it to be like bands that we kind of came up with or were from the area now. So we brought in Unearth and Darkest Hour, two bands we'd been playing shows with and touring with since, I mean, the late 90s. And honestly, for me, Darkest Hour and Unearth, Overcast, my old band before Shadows Fall, played with them a bunch even before. So it goes back as far as it could go. And then Within the Ruins and Carnivora were kind of two more like younger bands coming up from the area. So it was like a perfect mix, and had to do with the Palladium. That's like our home away from home. and it was incredible, man. The show couldn't have got better. It was probably the most well rehearsed we've ever been. We weren't known for like a band that that practiced a ton before tours. We toured so much that we felt like we were just tight from just the fact that we played 10 months out of the year. But man, we realized like, all right, we should have practiced more. We're good when we know these songs, you know.
You know what? It's cool to look back, you know how far you guys have come. My friend told me that I was like telling him about Shadows Fall, and then we were talking about like listening to some records, you know, The Art of Balance, and you know, there's a few other ones, and he's like, "Man, they broke up. I had no clue you guys broke up. Like, I listened to the music, and I was like, they broke up, and you know, Brian cut his dreads, and I was like, what? So, and then I saw you on social media, and I was like, I don't think he cut his dreads, man. And
No, the only ones have been cut. A few got stuck in a weed whacker through the like air intake, and then a few have gotten like under like chairs or caught in a car door. But nah, they're still there.
oh, wow, so you've had those since the age of what, 16?
Yeah, probably 17ish. It was like 93. I got my senior picture taken, with a nice little tight, high and tight crew cut, and then that was it. So
Wow, and what type of like hair care? How do you take care of them? Like, is it?
I don't have to do anything now. Besides, I'll like wash my hair and just let it do its thing. Like it's gonna do what it wants. And at this point, I'll occasionally like rip some apart, but to get stuck together. But
Hey,
yeah,
man,
it's pretty minimal.
you must have like such a jacked like back, like your neck must be so jacked or messed up or
Yeah, all of the above, pretty much. Like I'm sure if I shaved my head, it would probably like the muscles would be coming out from the sides.
yeah.
But when I roll it out, it sounds like you're stepping on like a bag of potato chips. It's snap, crackle, and pop for sure.
Oh wow,
So,
and
which I will say, 6 years of not really headbanging full time on tour, it feels better than it had in decades. Because man, on the road, there were definitely. I would try and stretch and be as good as you can, and I'd even be like, all right, tonight you're not gonna don't go too crazy with the windmills, take it easy. And as soon as the thrash part starts, you're like, well, I mean, there's nothing else you can do but headbang.
yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah. One of my favorite songs is "What Drives the Week," and just like I like the song, but at the end where like it all comes together with it's like with the China and it just that's just not you think it's gonna end and then it just like keeps on going and it's like this is fucking this really got me into it, right? Like it's like
yeah, that's the groove riff right there, man. Yeah,
you guys must have like riffs for days. You guys could probably put
dude.
more records if you wanted to.
Johnny Rock and Roll is a riff machine. Actually, and so is Matt. They both have a ton. And honestly, after we rehearsed and we're getting ready for the show, and now we have a few festivals coming up, we started kicking around some ideas. It's in a very informal stage right now, but I would love to work on new music with the guys, and I know they got riffs. So the thing is they'd have to be Shadows Fall riffs. Like they've got some other projects and they're in other bands. But if we all like kind of come together on the ideas, I would love to pursue them. And these days, it's easier to just put out like 2 songs on a quick EP, whether it's digital only or even on vinyl or whatever. Whereas before, without a traditional record deal, is a lot harder. Now, man, we can just do it all our own and record them and put them out as we feel like it. So I think that's definitely on the like tentative plans at this point.
Now your vocals for your projects are they're not like it's like you're distinctly your own vocal sound, right? Like you sound like nobody else, I believe, out there. And
Yeah, my voice only it does what it does. It definitely doesn't sound like anyone else though. Yeah, for
like
better or worse. So.
how'd you get into like being the front vocalist for like a hardcore band?
Totally by chance, like the classic, like just
Yeah.
sequence of events. Where I was skateboarding a lot, and Mike D, who went on to start Killswitch Engage, he came over to my friend's ramp, and we were just skating together and talking about music. And at that time, I was into a lot of the like early thrash, but a lot of traditional metal too, like a lot of Maiden, and But then I was getting into like Metallica, Anthrax, Slayer, some of the more deeper bands like Sacred Reich and DRI. And through skateboarding, I'd found like then I started finding hardcore like Youth of Today and Judge and Gorilla Biscuits and stuff like that. So we were talking about music, and he's like, "Yo, I'm going to see this band Leeway at the Channel in Boston," and I had never been to like kind of an all ages matinee hardcore show yet. I'd been to like some local punk rock stuff or something like that. So we go into Boston. I've just met him. I would think I was 14 or so, and we saw Leeway, Breakdown, Only Living Witness, and I think Said and Done. And it was the peak of like Boston hardcore 1990. Like the Channel was this club that was just known for like insane pits. There's like metal bars you can swing off of into the crowd. Like it was crazy. And I had no idea what I was getting into, you know? And I loved it. And I had heard Leeway, but I had seen him live, changed everything. And I realized like there's this whole other underground music that has a pulse that's just so different than the arena shows I'd been to. And, you know, because even like then Metallica was still doing arenas and things like that. So to see that energy in a small room and bodies flying everywhere and all that, and the fact that the bands looked, you know, only a few years older than you and things like that, it was eye opening. And me and Mike started jamming probably a week after that, and that became Overcast.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the only reason I sang, I had been playing bass in a band that was kind of like, I don't know, like if Skid Row and the Sex Pistols, like, you know, kind of combo where I thought we were punk rock, we were probably just playing like glam metal, you know? Yeah. And so I was playing bass, and Mike was a bass player, and he's like, well, I got all these hardcore band riffs. I was like, all right. I was like, well, I guess I'll sing, you know? It was like, it was as simple as that. And I grabbed the drummer for the band I was in, and then we found Pete, who was like the only sort of thrash metal guitar player in town. And then that it started from there. So it was super just random. I had never, you know, thought about really singing in a band until it just happened. And then from there, that literally once Overcast started from when I was 14 or 15, I played shows nonstop until Shadows Fall took its break in 2014 or 15. So it was the beginning of just like a 30-year run of just
Yeah.
playing shows.
It's absolutely incredible. Have you ever had a time where it's just been like, I don't think I can do this right now, like with your voice?
Yeah, you know, there were times on the road where you'd get pretty torched, but I found a way where I knew how to sing my style without doing real damage. It took a little while. Overcast shows were different where there were a lot of, you know, DIY hardcore shows where you're screaming into the wind, where it's usually a microphone into like some shitty little bass amp or something, you know, like, so I would blow my throat out all the time at those shows, but we would only play weekends and then a few short tours. By the time Shadows Fall was doing, you know, 8-week tours where you're playing 6 nights on, 1 night off, 12 nights on, 1 night off, you have to learn how to really maintain it, whether it was, you know, warming up or just technique wise, how to use the PA to your advantage. Realize like the volume is coming from the speakers. So find your tone, push, you know, like I can't like hold back. Like I have to like yell, but find a way where you're not just shredding yourself. So, but what sucks is when there's a night when you can't do anything about it. Like I've had, you know, nights where I had strep throat and like you basically have laryngitis, and there's no sub list to like check for like who's gonna fill in, you know, like it just fucks. So you just go up there and, you know, do as best you can. The Damage Plan tour was the worst I'd ever gotten sick, where I had strep throat and I couldn't speak for a couple days, where we had a show where I sang the first song and a half as good as I could, explain the situation. The band played Fire in Babylon instrumental because we're like, well, it's an 8-minute epic with like 3 guitar solos. We're like, you know, and then we had Peter from The Haunted and Pat from Damage Plan sing a song. And then I tried to do one more, you know? So we were like, fuck it. We're here. It's a party. Like the band can still play. So we didn't even cancel shows when I had laryngitis, you know? I then I got a steroid shot and was good and finished the tour.
That's another band I totally I thought of today. I know The Haunted and
The Haunted, man. I think that era of The Haunted was sick too, man. Like the first shit was amazing when they first came out, and then this was on the Revolver record where they kind of had a comeback. And man, I love that band, and especially with, I loved both singers, but Peter for me was the shit. Like his voice was so distinct and unique, and he pushed himself to try new things. Like so, yeah. That was a crazy tour, man.
Well, your label at the time, Century Media, like they were giving out like demo disc with Guitar World, you know, issues, and that's how I discovered The Haunted, and I believe God Forbid as well was on there. Diecast,
yeah, totally, man.
You guys as well.
Those samplers were killer. Like that was such a time of that too. The CD sampler, you know. So you know, now it's just a Spotify playlist, but back then, you know, the CD sampler that it would come with the magazines like stuck on the front, you know.
Yeah,
that's how so many people found out about bands back then.
And they also like, you know, advertise your record and your band in Guitar World.
We were the Guitar World like band for a minute. Same with drum magazines. Like Bittner was in every drum magazine for a little while, and John and Matt were all over guitar magazines. And I think a lot of it was before that, the only heavy stuff they had to push guitar wise was like new metal, which was, it wasn't my thing, but it was very simple guitar wise, and it was a lot more like about being down tuned and effects and things like that. Whereas we were kind of bringing back some of the shred side of things. So I'm sure those guitar magazines were psyched to do some tabs that had like a billion notes.
Yeah, man. And I discovered so many bands from the guitar world. The one issue that I still have, some are buried, some are in like my cabinets, has the War Within like advertised in it, and it also has Chevelle, Meshuggah. I believe when I discovered Meshuggah from that individual like issue, um, I went and actually downloaded their freaking record
Yeah.
illegally, and
Yeah.
now I know what the repercussions could be, but no, it's a great way, like people discovering music. How do you discover your music, Brian?
These days, honestly, I've been doing a lot of vinyl shopping. Like, so I've been going through the racks like old school style. So, and it's I've discovered new music that way. That's actual new, and I discovered old stuff like that I never would have thought I'd stumble across as well. So, it's been a lot of record playing around here. It also gets me my steps during the day. Got to get up and flip it over. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's I've been rediscovering a lot of older hardcore and punk through like picking up records again too, and a lot of things are getting reissued on like cool like colored vinyl and things like that. So I've been kind of in a music listening renaissance where for a while honestly I was like either kind of listening to podcasts or listening to a lot of just like Grateful Dead shows in the background and just like more and more ambient stuff. So getting the record collection out and set up in a nice little system has actually made me kind of dig back in, and I've been enjoying the like LP experience again of like a whole side of music, the way the artist wanted the track listing set. Whereas, because for so long I was just listening to shuffle or just mixes or just Spotify whatever's. So it's good to get back to like the art of the album again.
Yeah.
So
Well, like recently I kind of like thought about like what my show's niche would be or what it is, and it seems that it's music and entertainment, but I always kind of go hand in hand with coffee and listening to music at
Dude,
all times.
hey man, I was doing coffee and vinyl for a while where every morning, well, not every day, but a lot of times on Instagram, I would like post like coffee and vinyl where I'd have my cup of coffee for the day and a record, give a quick little like blurb about what I thought of it, and how I discovered it or just some connection that I had with it, and then a little snippet. But honestly, I started going back to the office again, so I don't have the time in the morning to get to listen to a record, much less post about it. So, but yeah, so coffee and vinyl for me, it goes hand in hand. So perfect max.
How do you take your coffee?
I like a little bit of cream and a little sugar, although lately I've been going non-dairy, for what I've been adding in, usually an oat milk type of thing. And I've been going a lot darker of a roast these days than I used to. I used to be a big Sumatran guy, but I've been going a little more of like a French dark roast these days.
Cool.
Yep.
Does it not feel weird after touring on the road for so long, 10 months out of the year, to go work a job 9 to 5?
Yeah, it definitely was a pretty big transition. I was lucky that when we first got off the road, I had really saved most of the money I'd made because when we were traveling, I would like live pretty Spartan when I got home, and because we were just traveling so much and on the road, I would just, let the road provide, whether it was, rider food or whatever we would stumble across backstage. So luckily I didn't have to like panic when we stopped touring. But then honestly, once I got settled down, bought a house, had 2 kids, I was like, all right, man, yeah. They're going to drain that savings fast. So, luckily, a friend through skateboarding again, skateboarding here in St. Louis when I first moved here from Boston. Worked at Alvarez Guitars, and it's a company called St. Louis Music that owns a few different instrument companies like Dixon Drums, Alvarez Guitars, a few others, and opened up like after randomly, and he just mentioned it. I was like, so I kind of got to hop right in on that. And honestly, though, the last 2 years I've been working from home, and it was like the perfect balance where I'm like, oh, cool, I got steady, good work, but like I can still like run the laundry while I'm here, or like like eat my own snacks. But we just went back to the office about a week and a half ago, and it's like all kind of hitting me that like, yeah, it's 9 to 5 again for real.
Yeah, man. Well, it's kind of cool to hear that you guys are doing this stuff once again with Shadows Fall. with a job like you have right now, there's probably some freedom. They know what you're all up to.
Without a doubt, they definitely are musician friendly, within reason, obviously. And honestly, now too, though, if Shadows Fall, it's such a different world now where you can really figure out a way to do festivals and like some long weekends or some fly in out stuff where we don't have to necessarily be a full time band touring wise, but I think we could find a way to like have it as not hitting everywhere we'd like to, but covering a lot of ground in strategic sort of short bursts. Uh, so hopefully I can balance that between, and I'd love to get back more into the entrepreneurial side of things down the road anyway, but so we'll see.
I'm looking forward to, one day seeing you guys up here in Canada if I can. If not, I can cross the border and check you guys out in Buffalo. What's going on with this Hell Night band? This is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, Hell Night's been a blast. Another like stumble into it situation. Like when I first got to St. Louis, the last thing I was thinking about was playing in another band or starting something new. And My wife had a friend, Mike Kraft, who was singing for this band, and she's like, I think it's pretty, I think it's pretty raw. Like I think it's pretty serious. Like, and we went and checked them out, and I was blown away. And they were like this crazy down tune mix of like Black Flag or like Melvins on meth, or I didn't even know what it was. I was in, and Mike was a great front man. He was just screaming his head off, and I was like, this is crazy. And but they were pretty solid, so I didn't think anything more of it. And then Mike decided, he's like, yeah, I just don't have the time to commit to a band, so I think I'm gonna be done. And they were just like, yeah, you want to jam? I was like, man, this is the only band in the area I would have wanted to join, and then but didn't think there'd be an opportunity. So then when it was just that easy and presented itself, I was like, oh man. And we our first practice, we wrote probably 3 new songs, and we're just like, yeah, this is gonna work. And
Sweet.
it's such a different approach and vibe than Shadows Fall, which was very well-oiled machine music industry, like full-time band. So, and it didn't really affect your songwriting, your creative side, but it affects every decision making, and it's all, it's your life, it's everything. This was like, man, we're making noise to make noise, and we also would write a song, have a batch of like 3 songs that we'd maybe played live once and jammed a few times, and we'd record them right away. Like before the initial inspiration and vibe was gone, we would just record them raw, quick, fast, and just boom. Where, like such a different experience in the studio than like Shadows Fall records, which were, so prepared and planned out, and multiple demos and all that. Like our 7 inches or full lengths are basically the first recording of those songs. Like, so it is the demo like vibe, See, no one can ever say like, oh, I like the demo better, or like this is,
This is demo.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly. So so it's been fun, man. And man, we were just super productive. The pandemic took a lot of wind out of our sails, and we're actually all getting together in a couple weeks to just kind of sit down and just like figure out what we're gonna start jamming again and shit like that. So we always keep it super casual. If it's ever stressful, we're just like, then we'll take some time off. It's all about like enjoying writing songs and playing the few random shows. So
Awesome, man. Well,
yep.
how long have you been doing the Hell Night thing?
It's crazy. Now it's been years. Like it's been probably like 5-6 years, maybe even. But there was like a year and a half plus break. Sort of,
Yeah.
we were literally about to open a new venue here. Our friends had started this place called Red Flag, which thankfully survived the pandemic, because we were playing, I think it was like April of that year, and so things shut down right before it. And luckily, they were able to either just figure out ways to weather the storm, and now things are going great for them. But so, man, yeah, we were like kind of full steam ahead. We had just dropped a full length. We were playing a bunch of shows, and then it was done. So. But yeah, hopefully we can ramp up again. It's very easy. Like we're like kind of like that old lawnmower that just takes the one pull start and it always seems to get going. So we'll be up and running fast.
Awesome, man. Well, it's good to get an update from you and what's going on with Shadows Fall, Hell Night, and all your other things happening in your life. I know a lot of things have changed for your band and your life in general, but I'm really happy to have had this chance to talk to you, man. Thank you so much.
Hey man, it's my pleasure, brother. Hopefully we'll have some coffee sometime if we can make it up north, or if you can make it down to a show once we do some stuff, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much.